Hello and welcome back to Cinema Savvy, and welcome to another review from the London Film Festival 2020. I am Tate. I'm joined today with George, who I'm pretty sure we didn't work out who was going to do the intro beforehand, and he was literally about to speak. But today we're going to be reviewing One Night in Miami. Now, this is a big one. I know we said Mangrove was a big one, but this one is a humongous one. We're dealing with a definite Oscar contender with this film. Before we go into the film itself, we need to bring up the socials and everything like that. So if you want to follow us on our content, please go and follow us on Facebook. We announce all of our videos that are coming up through there. Same with on Twitter as well. That's at cinema_savvy. And if you go into the description, you'll see a link to our TeePublic store where you can pick up our t-shirts as well. Please do not forget to, as well, comment below with what films you're looking forward to or what films you've seen from the film festival. If you've seen One Night in Miami as well, please let us know. Like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe. We're getting so close to that goal. So please go and do that there. How are you doing today, George?
I'm very well. Yourself?
I am doing great, actually. I'm doing great.
The way it's been with London Film Festival, we're on another one. I've not been able to see this. I've missed a couple due to some other stuff going on. So if anyone hasn't watched any of our reviews from the festival, a lot of the time, I think Mangrove's the only one where everyone had seen it that we've been on. But we tend to have someone jump on, so it's more of a review via a Q&A. I know it sounds very strange, but it's the easiest way of doing it. So we've got, obviously, this is happening right now, and we've also got a review to come out for Wolf Walkers, and of course films coming out across the next couple of days. So as usual, as you said, check out the social media for the main things coming up. And however, just very quickly, sidestepping, tomorrow we'll have our Boys Season 2 review. It should be up about 8 in the evening for people that want to watch at home. We're going to pre-record it in the daytime, so if you like the boys, if you like TV,
really looking forward to discussing it.
Chris binged it. If anyone watched Battle of the Brackets, Chris watched it the day after, and he's up to date. So that's going to be a big one. But different things. So let's talk One Night in Miami. So you mentioned awards season contender. A big thing of this is it's Regina King's debut film. Yes. And I found out this is an adaptation of a play, and it's so I don't know if they explain the film. It's fictional. The story is fictional, so can you delve into that for people at home? Obviously, it's not really nothing to spoiler, but these are these big names from the 60s, and it's took place in a fictional event. It's not a direct, what's the word, retelling of something that happened.
No, it's not. I don't actually know if anything close to this ever happened. I don't think these guys ever met in a room like they did in the film. But the film is basically 4 of the biggest kind of names in Black history, or at least recent Black history, all meet in a hotel room in Miami and basically discuss civil rights, kind of their personal struggles, and what their future holds. So the 4 big names here are Cassius Clay, also known as Muhammad Ali, one of the most successful boxers of all time. Malcolm X, political activist and incredibly kind of famous person for just what his influence brought to kind of Black rights in America. Jim Brown, a famous fullback from American football. So if people, I mean, we're British, but I watch American football. He basically gets the ball and runs with it instead of going and catching the ball. For anyone who didn't know, for the Cleveland Browns, one of the most successful ones of all time. And Sam Cooke, one of the most influential soul singers of all time. In fact, I went onto Spotify earlier. They list him as the most influential soul singer of all time. I don't know if that's them tooting his own horn or anything like that, but I would completely agree with that. He is absolutely one of the most influential singers of all time. So it's these 4 big names who all meet up in the hotel room, and they kind of discuss life and just discuss their personal struggles and everything like that. It is fantastic. It is brilliant. And I mentioned this a little bit beforehand to George, but I looked on the Wikipedia page, looked at the budget, and went, wow. This film is a 16.9 million budget. That's an indie film. That is such a low budget for a film. Usually you're looking at the budgets and it's going up to the 50 millions and the 100 millions and stuff like that. Film productions have become so expensive. This is done on next to nothing as far as films are concerned. And this film is just pure acting. It is absolutely pure acting. And I know it's based off a stage play, and I always like watching films like this, films like Fences, where you just see actors going at it at the height of their game. And the actors in this one, so it's Kingsley Ben-Adir, Eli Gorey, Aldous Hodge, and Leslie Odom Jr. And the only person I recognized from that list originally was Leslie Odom Jr. from Hamilton. But all of them bring out just a phenomenal performance from just all of them. It's such a fantastic watch.
And that kind of leads me on to the next bit. So performance-wise, when you've got sort of stage plays that jump into it as well, are they, how do I describe it? Not to get into monster, you know how Solo, it's not a copy of Harrison Ford doing Han Solo. It's like, it's his own take. Do they go for the, we're going to be identical to the real life person, or is it we're doing our own take on this, in the sense of it doesn't have to look piece by piece like him?
So a couple of them look identical. So they have that identical look. So I'd say Malcolm X absolutely has that identical look. The character who plays at Malcolm X, Sam Cooke as well, absolutely identical, even in voice as well. I'm sure that they cast Leslie Odom Jr. because of his voice and because he was able to portray that kind of singing voice in the same style. The person who played Cassius Clay nailed the accent. It sounds like him. He's got the rhythm of his voice, because if there's one thing that Muhammad Ali's known for, other than boxing, is the way he talked, is the way that he was able to kind of get across his point, like his whole flow like a butterfly, sting like a bee kind of stuff. He absolutely nails that. He gets the rhythm of the character perfectly down, even if he isn't a complete identical kind of look in life. He's close, but he isn't identical. I still haven't seen Jim Brown yet. I kind of need to look up to see actually what Jim Brown looked like when he was younger, because then I'll be able to tell you if it was kind of close or identical. Yeah, close. I'd say close as well. I'm not sure about Jim Brown as far as histories with mannerisms concerned, but I'd say that it was closer to the identical instead of like not a parody, but like a copy. They tried to go for the kind of exact kind of thing with all the characters.
Absolutely. It's really hard to take from here because it's fictional. I think this is what's someone that's not seen it that I've kind of more intrigued to see with it is because it's not based off real events. I think that gives it a different edge when it's walking into not even Oscar season as a film itself. Is like they don't have to copy anything. They don't have to get a detail as in terms of story, in terms of what they're discussing. It doesn't need to be not 100% because that sounds like an imitation. But
they do get the timings. Yeah, they do get the timings accurate. So the timings of kind of what year it's set in. So it's set in 1964 in February. And that's quite a key year for all of them during their lives. And I think that's why they picked that date when going with the stage play, because it was an absolute pivotal moment for all four of them at their time. And they all suddenly decided they wanted to make a change in the world. And they all enacted on it in that year. So I think that's crucial as far as the story is concerned. But I completely agree with you. They could go with anything here. The conversations are completely hypothetical, but it's done in their own characters. And they stick to their characters throughout, and you're able to pick up on these character traits, and it's just really well acted in that sense.
And like in terms of like direction as well, because I can't like I've not seen much from Regina King. I haven't seen Watchmen, which I know she won an Emmy for. I know she won an Oscar. Was it last year or the year before?
Beale Street Could Talk, yeah.
If it's down to direction, how is that for like a debut? Because it's getting quite the reputation, and if she's on this streak right now as well. Is it sort of the perfect debut in a kind of polite way?
I would put it up there with, as far as previous like recent debuts, I put it up there with Bradley Cooper's From a Star Is Born. Like it will be recognized, it will be kind of awarded, I feel. It's very difficult to say that with what I'm about to say, but the film does really only take place in the hotel room. There's one introductory scene where they're all outside of the hotel room, they're all doing their own thing, and it kind of introduces the characters one by one. And then towards the end as well, they go their separate ways and they have that kind of outro there. But the film itself is all directed within the hotel room. That doesn't take away from how good the directing is in this film. It isn't just like static shot, just kind of like focusing on each character as they're speaking and stuff like that. There are a lot of times where a person will walk out the room, they will follow that person, you just hear the argument or the conversation happening in the background. And you focus on this character kind of and their emotional struggle with what is being processed. And that's very clever. That's very well done. And with such a small amount of space within this hotel room, which is literally 2 rooms next to each other and a bathroom, and that's all they've got to work with. It is so well done. You see pretty much every inch of that hotel room by the end of it, and it's completely covered.
And is there like it sounds so weird and like this like an interview.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Is there a soundtrack? Because I know obviously if it was theatre, if it is set in a room, do they go for music as such, or
they don't really go with a soundtrack as such? I wouldn't say that there was like a score that's constantly running in the background. There may be like a small kind of one, but I didn't pick up on it as much. The big thing here is that every now and then, especially when they're talking about Sam Cooke's character, they will pull in his music and they will play his music on the record player, or he'll be singing with his guitar. And there are a few instances of that. There's one very, very key moment we'll talk about if we wanted to go into spoilers maybe like the next conversation, but like where they go into another singer and their impact, and it completely blows kind of a small conversation into an argument, because this film is it's not all, oh, they're all friends, they're all just kind of discussing, oh, aren't we so great, this is what we're going to go on and do. No, there is true disagreement in this argument about their roles and how far they're pushing each other and what they kind of mean for each other as far as what they can do for their own race. And it's just, I can't give it enough praise, to be honest. It's so well done in that sense.
And before we get into that bit, I want to do. Yeah. It sounds so weird to do a comparison. Obviously, there's been a fair few films at the festival now. Is this been better than probably Mangrove? I know the three of us probably have Mangrove as our favorite at this point in time.
I hate to say that like the films have got better every single time, because it wasn't the same way last year. There was some ups and downs in the festival. This year, the films have been getting better every single time. I've only done 3 films so far, but from the 3, it's just been a step up every single time. And I really did like Mangrove. Mangrove was a fantastic film and goes into kind of that English perspective and everything like that. But even if that's the case, this somehow takes a wider stance and a wider look at the picture. And maybe it's because these are more famous names and they've had maybe a larger cultural impact on the world. But I feel like this film carries more weight than Mangrove does.
Absolutely. I don't know if there's too much else. I kind of want to not even ask, but I'm just trying to think. It's so much harder.
I could go into maybe a couple of the spoilers without really spoiling the whole thing.
Yeah, if you can bring up one thing I'd like to know. Again, if you're watching at home, you're going to watch this. Don't just sort of tune in now. But if who you mentioned a music comparison, can I just ask who that is? Because I'd imagine that would be a big thing, especially if you have a musician in there at the time.
It was Bob Dylan. So I can't remember which Bob Dylan song they play, but I think the lyric is how long can a man walk along the road before he becomes a man? And that is a key phrase within the film. And they're talking about Sam Cooke's music before 1964. And his music's all very kind of, lovey-dovey, kind of, they even make mention of it, like him pandering to a white audience and pandering to that kind of, I want to be famous audience instead of I want to do something for my people kind of audience. And they talk a lot about him not being allowed onto the charts. He's on a completely separate chart than what he's meant to be on. Like he's on the kind of alternative chart instead of being on the pop chart, the popular chart. And they talk about how Bob Dylan basically does more lyrically in one song, in one line of one song, than Sam Cooke has done in his entire career for his own kind of cause. And people related to Bob Dylan in that song just from that one lyric. Whereas Sam Cooke's music was like, I think they played one of them, which was, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And those are the only lyrics of it. And that was fascinating because Sam Cooke's character actually walks out of the room at that point and goes off and like goes and gets a drink. And it's kind of a harsh moment for him to realize that maybe he's not doing enough. Maybe he's not kind of putting enough forward for himself. And then the end of the film, this isn't really a spoiler, but the end of the film ends with him kind of going on some white talk show and singing Change Is Gonna Come, which is probably one of his most famous songs and a very powerful song about the struggles that people went through at those times, as in civil rights and everything like that. Which, I mean, this isn't really a spoiler, this is real life. Sam Cooke died that year. He died at the end of that year, but he was able to release that song in that time, and he would have been writing that song at this point in time, which is why I said the timings were so important with the film. They were able to get like the timings of him being there on this night able to kind of write this song, or at least come up with the idea for this song, because it's the same night that Cassius Clay decides that he wants to become Muhammad Ali and join Islam, and it's also the same night that he becomes world champion. And Jim Brown's just won his Super Bowl ring, and he wants to move into acting. So there's so many different move-on points here for all of the characters.
Definitely. I don't know if there's too much more I can think of. I don't know if you've got more stuff you want to say, like final thoughts or.
I do want to kind of talk about who I think would be nominated for awards here from this film.
Yeah.
And what would be put forward. Because it's very difficult to say which characters, because all four of them put on fantastic performances. I'd say the only one which wasn't as fantastic, or maybe it's because they didn't have as many lines, was Aldous Hodge as Jim Brown. He wasn't given as much to kind of work with there as far as his character was concerned. And then it's very difficult to kind of decide which one is the main actor from the film. I'd probably say Kingsley Ben-Adir as Malcolm X would be the main character and would probably get a lead actor nomination here. And then Eli Gorey as Cassius Clay and Leslie Odom Jr. as Sam Cooke could easily both get nominations for Best Supporting Actor. And I wouldn't be surprised if both of them did in that category. I think this is a kind of multi-award category kind of thing. This will be probably up for adapted screenplay. It will be up for directing, I reckon, as well. And maybe best... I think they did an original song in the end credits as well, so that will probably be in there as well. But we'll have to see as well. But honestly, this film, it's going to be coming out on Amazon Prime Video on the 15th of January. So it's getting a wide digital release then, and it's getting a limited release on the 25th of December, so on Christmas Day. I don't know where that limited release is going to be. But honestly, I cannot stress enough, people should go and see this film. It's a fantastic watch if you like that old school, just people acting kind of cinema. Nothing flashy, nothing over the top, just people having a conversation in their set characters. And yeah, that's all I can say.
Perfect. So I think if that wraps everything up, you've got like a final thoughts on. I know this is pretty much everything. So as usual, like I said, it's been pretty weird doing some of these, but obviously we've got a couple more coming your way across this week. We're hoping to get Nomadland, which the three of us will find out about very shortly. But as usual, I'm going to go straight back to the social. So if you want to find out what's next, always find us on our social media, Facebook, Cinema Savvy, Twitter @cinema_savvy. We'll always let you know when we're going live. If sometimes it's a day or two in advance, sometimes it could be an hour or two in advance, especially this week. So best thing to find is to find out on that. And as usual, to like, comment, share, subscribe. If you do want notifications on, you just press the bell button and that will beep to your phone whenever we do go live. So you won't be able to miss anything that way. And as we've kind of said before, tomorrow we're going to have the Boys Season 2 review, and that's going to be spoiler depth as well. So that's going to be a fun one. It's had its finale on Friday, so you've got one more day to catch up. If you haven't yet seen it, which is crazy if you haven't. And if you haven't even watched the show, then we're just going to keep advertising it for free because it's phenomenal. It's really worth watching. So, and if you activate a free month of Amazon Prime, you'll be able to watch Borat 2 as well if you want a free trial. So there's kind of 2-in-1 as well as the Boys. So I think that wraps it up here. I don't know how Chris will just the outro is. I don't know what else needs to be said or what needs to be done. But I want to
thank you for watching, I guess.
Yeah.